Snowflakes drifted gently through the night air, covering the streets in a blanket of white. Mr. Harrison, a man whose name was known across the city for his wealth and success, walked alone through the quiet avenues on Christmas Eve. He had just left a grand party where glasses clinked and laughter filled the halls, but none of it had touched him. The world saw him as a man who had everything, a mansion decorated with shimmering lights, luxury cars waiting at his door, and endless riches at his command. Yet inside, he carried a silence that no celebration could break. As he strolled past shop windows glowing with festive cheer, he felt a strange heaviness pressing on his heart. Families gathered around trees, children pressed their noses to the glass in excitement, lovers held hands beneath the falling snow. It was the season of togetherness, yet for him, it was only another reminder of what he lacked. Years of chasing money had left him with abundance in his hands but emptiness in his soul. Every step echoed the truth he tried to bury: his home was a palace without laughter, a space filled with things but absent of love. Christmas lights twinkled on every corner, but none of their warmth reached him. Alone in the quiet night, he couldn't shake the thought that despite all his riches, he was poorer than those who had nothing but each other. And as he walked further, fate was preparing to show him just how true that was. The wind grew colder as Mr. Harrison turned down a quieter street, his thoughts tangled in the weight of loneliness. That's when something caught his eye: a small figure crouched beside a trash bin in the dim glow of a flickering streetlight. At first, he thought it might be an animal searching for scraps, but as he drew closer, his heart stopped. It was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9, her tiny frame wrapped in clothes so thin they barely shielded her from the freezing night. Her hair was messy, her cheeks red from the bitter cold, and her hands trembled as she dug through the garbage. Mr. Harrison froze, watching as she pulled out a piece of stale bread, brushed off the dirt, and held it close like it was the greatest gift in the world. But what pierced him most wasn't the bread, it was her smile. Fragile, innocent, and thankful for something so small, a smile that revealed both her suffering and her strength. She sat on the cold pavement, nibbling carefully, as though savoring each bite. Mr. Harrison's throat tightened. The streets around him blurred as memories of his own childhood, nights without a mother's comfort, days filled with longing, came rushing back. He had buried those feelings under years of wealth, but this child, this moment, tore the walls down. For the first time in many years, his eyes filled with tears. Mr. Harrison stood motionless, his breath clouding in the frozen air as his eyes remained fixed on the little girl. Something inside him cracked wide open. He had seen poverty before, but never like this, never so raw, so close, so human. Her small fingers clutched the crust of bread as if it were life itself, and suddenly the millionaire felt the sting of shame wash over him. He thought of his own childhood, the years when he had nothing but dreams of escaping hunger and loneliness. He remembered the ache of going to bed cold, the humiliation of watching others celebrate holidays while he stared through windows from the outside. He had vowed, back then, that money would protect him from such pain. And it had, at least, on the surface. But standing here now, he realized that wealth had not saved him, it had only numbed him, blinding him to the very struggles that once defined him. His chest grew heavy, and without warning, tears welled in his eyes. They streamed down his cheeks, hot against the winter air, shocking him with their force. He hadn't cried in years, not when he closed his biggest deals, not even when he sat alone in his mansion each Christmas. But this small girl, hungry and smiling through her suffering, had broken through his armor. He turned his gaze upward, snowflakes melting on his face, and whispered to himself, "What have I done with my life?" For the first time in decades, he truly felt human. Mr. Harrison slowly stepped forward, his polished shoes crunching against the snow. The little girl startled, clutching the bread tightly to her chest as if she feared he might take it from her. But he knelt down, lowering himself to her level, his voice trembling as he spoke. "Don't be afraid," he whispered gently. "Are you hungry?" Her wide eyes searched his face, uncertain whether to trust him. She gave the smallest nod, her lips too cold and chapped to form words. Without another thought, Mr. Harrison took off his heavy wool coat and wrapped it around her tiny shoulders. The coat nearly swallowed her whole, but for the first time that night, warmth returned to her body. He guided her to a small cafe still open nearby. The warmth of the lights spilled onto the snow as he pushed the door open. Inside, the smell of fresh bread and hot soup filled the air. He ordered everything he could think of, soup, pastries, cocoa, and watched in silence as the girl ate slowly, savoring each bite as though it were a miracle. Tears pricked his eyes again, but this time they weren't just of sadness, they were of realization. He had spent fortunes on things that never filled his soul, yet giving this child a simple meal brought him more peace than all the luxuries in his mansion. As she finished her cocoa, the girl looked up at him with shy gratitude and whispered, "Thank you, sir, you saved me." In that moment, he knew his life would never be the same. That night, Mr. Harrison did something he hadn't done in years. He opened the doors of his mansion not for guests in suits and gowns, but for a child who had nothing. As his car pulled into the long driveway glowing with Christmas lights, the little girl's eyes widened in wonder. She had never seen anything so bright, so magical. Inside, the grand hall sparkled with decorations, but for once, Mr. Harrison didn't see them as ornaments for display. He saw them as symbols waiting to be shared. He led the girl to a small Christmas tree in the corner of the living room, the one he never bothered to decorate because no family ever gathered around it. Together, they hung ornaments, her tiny hands placing each one with care while he steadied the branches. When they were done, she clapped softly, her face glowing with joy. It wasn't the mansion, the lights, or the gifts that made her smile. It was the warmth of being wanted, of belonging somewhere. And for Mr. Harrison, it wasn't wealth or success that filled the emptiness in his chest. It was this little girl's laughter echoing through his home, breathing life into walls that had stood silent for far too long. As midnight struck, he realized he had received the greatest gift of all, the chance to give. Christmas was no longer about what he owned, but about what he shared. And in that moment, two lonely hearts found family in each other.